So, have you ever been casually scrolling through your phone, like maybe looking at a completely normal family photo from a few years ago?
Just going through the camera roll.
Right, exactly. And for whatever reason, you zoom in on the background,
Uh-huh.
and just out of focus, like behind the smiling faces and the birthday cake, you notice a stranger.
That is always such a freaky feeling.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's someone standing near the edge of the frame, looking directly into the camera lens. It gives you this sudden, cold drop in your stomach.
Because you realize the camera caught something you totally missed.
Exactly. For a split second, you realize the camera captured something your eyes completely ignored in the moment. And today's deep dive is an exploration of that exact feeling.
It's a very modern type of vulnerability, honestly. I mean, we rely on our devices to act as this objective memory, right?
Yeah, like a perfect record.
Right, to capture reality exactly as it is.
Hmm.
We just assume that what the lens sees is simply what was there. But the material we are analyzing today, well, it challenges that assumption fundamentally.
It really does. So, we are digging into excerpts and accounts compiled into a source text called The Guest Who Came with the Balloons.
A very unsettling title.
Very.
Yeah.
And our mission in this deep dive is to analyze how this narrative takes our everyday obsession with recording our live, like our need to document every mundane detail, and turns the camera lens into a portal for an uninvited entity.
It forces us to ask, what happens when the act of observing actually changes or even creates the thing being observed?
Okay, let's unpack this by starting where the story starts. Picture a completely normal suburban afternoon.
We're setting the scene.
Exactly. It's 6-year-old Oliver Harper's birthday party. And the Harpers, they've only been in this house for like 4 months.
So they're still getting settled.
Yeah. And if you've ever been to a 6-year-old's party, you know the chaotic vibe. There are nearly 30 people crammed into the house.
That is a lot of people for a living room.
It's pure chaos. Kids are sprinting down the hallways. Parents are drinking coffee in the kitchen, like trying to talk over cheap party speakers. Balloons are bouncing against the ceiling. It is loud and it is overwhelming.
Which, serves a very specific mechanical purpose for the entity.
Oh, how so?
Well, that sensory overload is the ideal camouflage.
Hmm.
I mean, in nature, predators use environmental noise to mask their approach, right?
The tiger in the brush.
Exactly. In a suburban home, a house full of distracted adults and screaming children is literally the perfect cover to slip in unnoticed.
Wow, okay. But to understand the digital horror that unfolds later, we have to look at what happens in the physical room first.
Right, the initial breach.
Yeah. Halfway through the party, the children start talking to Oliver's mother, Rachel, about, well, they call him the quiet boy.
And no one saw this kid arrive.
Nobody. But multiple children start describing the exact same boy. They say he's shy, he doesn't talk to the adults, and he just stands in the corners of the room.
The stark divide between adult perception and children's reality here is crucial, I think.
Because the adults just ignore it, right?
Yeah, they barely pay attention to these complaints. They brush it off as an imaginary friend or, just assume it's a neighbor kid someone else brought.
But the details the kids give Rachel are incredibly specific. Like, one little girl tells her that the boy smelled like rain.
Such a strange detail.
Super strange. And then another child says the boy is asking questions, but not normal kid questions. He's asking things like, which room do you sleep in?
Whoa.
And do your parents hear you crying at night?
Yeah, those are not the questions of a child. Those are the questions of a hunter.
Just gathering intel.
Exactly. Gathering intelligence on its prey's vulnerabilities.
Hmm.
It is establishing the geography of the home and mapping out the isolation of the targets.
So Rachel does what any parent would do. She actually searches the house, she checks the guest list, she walks upstairs, looks in the bedrooms.
She's doing her due diligence.
Yeah. Right, and she even specifically notes that the backyard gate is completely locked from the inside. There is no extra child in the house.
None that she can see, anyway.
Right. But when she asks Oliver about it later, like during the cake cutting, he casually says he came with the balloons.
And then he drops that terrifying detail.
Yeah, he just adds he doesn't got a face.
And notice how the adults react to that statement.
They just laugh it off.
They laugh nervously. Oliver's father, Daniel, he later dismisses it entirely. He says it was probably just a kid wearing a mask that no one paid attention to.
I look at the adult brain in this scenario like a highly aggressive email spam filter.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Because we have to process so much information every day just to function, right?
Mhm.
So when something anomalous or seemingly impossible happens.
Like a child saying a guest has no faith.
Exactly. Our brains automatically route that information to the junk folder so we can just maintain our sanity. Children don't have that filter yet. They just accept the bizarre reality right in front of them.
I see where you're going with a stamp filter analogy, but I'd argue the mechanism here is actually far more insidious.
Really? How so?
Well, it's not just that the adults are passively filtering the entity out. The entity is actively exploiting a cognitive blind spot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it targets the children precisely because they will interact with it, but it relies on the adult's psychological need for normalcy to remain invisible.
Then why does it use such specific sensory details? Like, why smell like rain if it's just trying to blend in?
Because it is an incomplete manifestation.
What do you mean?
Think of it as a rough draft of a person. It can manage ambient environmental details like the smell of rain or the presence of a shadow, but it fails at the most complex, vital human feature, which is a face.
So it's still forming?
Right, it hasn't learned how to fully render itself yet.
Okay, that idea of a rough draft perfectly bridges us to the next phase of the text. Because her own senses and her husband's rationalizations, they fail to provide any comfort. Rachel desperately needs objective truth.
She needs proof.
Exactly. She needs to prove to herself that there wasn't an intruder. So she turns to the motion-activated security cameras in the living room.
The device without a cognitive spam filter.
Right. A camera doesn't rationalize, it simply records light and shadow. So she pulls up the 2:17 p.m. footage on Daniel's phone, and she freezes.
Because it's there.
It's there. Standing motionless in the far corner of the living room among the balloons is a thin child in dark clothes.
But the visual is messed up.
Yeah, the camera is struggling to process him. The video distorts around his body with this, rippling static. And then he turns.
This is the worst part.
The face is smooth, pale skin stretched completely blank across the front of his head. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. And in the video, Rachel watches herself walk directly past this faceless entity without reacting at all.
The psychological impact of that realization is just profound.
Discovering you were inches away from it.
Inches away from something impossible and realizing that your own perception completely failed to protect you. I mean, that shatters the baseline illusion of safety we all operate under.
And then the footage does something that completely defies physics.
The glitch.
The glitch. The video glitches with heavy static for half a second. When the image clears, the faceless boy hasn't walked forward. He is simply suddenly closer to the camera lens.
And he's watching the camera.
He is watching the camera.
That movement during the glitch, it really points to the entity's nature. It doesn't move through physical space the way we do.
How does it move then?
It moves through the blind spots of the recording.
Wow. Well, the parents immediately called the police. The house is searched. No forced entry is found anywhere.
Naturally.
And a detective reviews the video and offers a very convenient explanation. He says it's, quote, digital corruption caused by a camera malfunction.
Of course he does.
He takes a copy of the file, and the text notes that 3 days later, he dies in a car accident while driving home alone at night.
The detective offers a comforting lie.
Yeah.
We've all seen videos, artifact, or glitch, so it's a plausible, rational explanation that allows him to close the book on the impossible.
Let's pause here, though, because I have a real issue with that detective's logic.
I think we all do.
I mean, I understand wanting to rationalize it as a glitched hard drive, but if this was just digital corruption, a software error, how did the physical children at the party talk to it?
Exactly.
How did they smell rain? A corrupted MP4 file doesn't ask a 6-year-old if their parents hear them crying at night.
I completely agree. The physical interaction definitively rules out a simple technological glitch. But it raises a deeper question about the camera's role.
Right. I don't think the camera's malfunctioning at all. I think the static and the distortion happen because the lens is trying to capture a being that doesn't fully exist in our dimension yet.
It's straining to process it.
Yeah. It's trying to encode binary data for something that defies the laws of physics.
If we expand on that, the narrative here makes a fascinating shift from a traditional haunting into this, technological nightmare.
Yeah, it's not a standard ghost story.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The security camera isn't just a passive recording device anymore. By attempting to capture the entity, the camera unwittingly becomes a conduit.
A conduit.
Yes. The act of recording gives the entity a digital footprint. It anchors it.
And once it's anchored digitally, it doesn't stay confined to that one afternoon. And this is where I have to admit some confusion, because the text introduces a concept that is really hard to wrap my head around.
Retroactive infection.
Yes, retroactive infection. Rachel tries to move on, but the faceless boy starts appearing in old online family videos. We're talking about cloud storage from years ago.
Files that were perfectly normal before.
Right. He is suddenly standing in the background of Oliver's kindergarten recital. He's in the background of a beach vacation from 2 years prior.
It makes no logical sense.
How does something that physically appeared at a party today retroactively infect a hard drive from 2 years ago?
Well, it requires us to rethink how a digital entity operates. When we think of a physical threat, we think in linear time.
Right, past, present, future.
Exactly. But in a digital space, a file from 2024 and a file from 2022, they exist simultaneously on a server. They're just interconnected code.
Oh, I see.
Once the entity gains access to the digital ecosystem through that security camera, it isn't bound by chronology anymore. It travels through the data itself, inserting its presence into the family's archived memories.
That is horrifying. And Daniel actually becomes obsessed with this. He starts going frame by frame through the infected footage, trying to find signs of editing or tampering.
Trying to find his rational explanation again.
But he discovers a detail that makes it so much worse. In these old clips, the boy's blank head slowly turns toward the cameras before the lens even pans over to him.
Ugh, that's chilling.
It's as if he always knows where the observation is coming from.
Because the entity exists outside the temporal flow of the video, it is aware of the act of observation itself.
Right.
But the text pushes this even further back in time. It isn't just the Harper's cloud storage that is infected.
Right, the Turner tapes. Rachel goes into the attic, desperate for answers about the previous owners of the house. And she finds a hidden box of VHS tapes labeled The Turners, 1993.
This discovery fundamentally shifts the scope of the narrative.
It really does. Rachel plays these decades-old analog tapes, and she finds the faceless boy standing in the background of the previous family's barbecues and Christmas mornings.
He has been watching generations of families inside this exact same house.
And as she fast-forwards through years of this footage, she notices the boy is changing.
Developing.
Yeah, developing. In the early 90s tapes, his face is completely blank, but over the decades, tiny features are slowly forming. Shadows where eyes should be.
The basic structures.
Right, the faint, barely there outline of lips. By the time she hits the final tape from 1998, a child's birthday party ends in a panic, the camera drops, and for one single frame, the boy stands directly in front of the lens.
And he has a fully formed, impossibly wide human mouth.
It is exactly like an AI image generator.
Oh, that is a perfect analogy.
Right. You know, when you give a prompt to an AI, it starts out as this blurry, static-filled blob. It requires immense processing power and time to slowly render the image, pass by pass, until a clear face emerges.
Yes.
This entity is doing the exact same thing, but its processing power is human attention and the physical act is being filmed.
Wow.
Over 30 years of home videos, it used the lenses of those cameras to slowly render its own face.
That analogy highlights the core theme of the text perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
We have this, compulsion to record every moment, a desire to preserve ourselves and our families.
We document everything now.
Everything. And the story turns that very human instinct into a weapon. The entity is literally using these families' recorded memories as a gestation pod.
A gestation pod. That is so gross but so accurate.
Every time a camera was turned on, it provided the entity with more data, teaching it how to construct a human form.
Which raises an incredibly uncomfortable question about our own surveillance culture. We put cameras in our living rooms. We document everything. Are we, in a sense, stepping out of the present moment and feeding a digital ghost?
It's a terrifying thought.
We think we're capturing our memories, but in this narrative, they are feeding a parasite. And once that parasite finishes gestating, it leads to the final stage, the breach.
Because once the rendering is complete, the entity no longer needs to hide in the background of old tapes.
It's ready.
It is ready for the foreground of the present.
And the escalation is rapid. At 3 a.m., Rachel hears whispering over the baby monitor. It's Oliver talking to someone in the dark.
The classic horror trope, but with a twist.
Yeah. Because the voice that answers him is described as wet, distorted, like words spoken underwater.
It's just awful.
Rachel rushes in, turns on the lights, and finds Oliver sitting up. He tells her he's talking to the birthday boy.
Oh, no.
Rachel says, "Oliver, you're the birthday boy." And he points to his empty closet and says, "No, he is."
The entity is claiming Oliver's identity. I mean, it has moved past observation. It is beginning the process of assimilation right there.
And then Rachel looks at the bedroom window, and written in the condensation on the glass are the words, "Thank you for inviting me."
That phrase, "thank you for inviting me," it carries a ton of mythological weight.
Like with vampires.
Exactly. In many folklore traditions, a malicious entity, like a vampire, cannot enter a home unless explicitly invited.
But the Harpers never consciously invited this thing inside.
Not with words, no. But the narrative suggests that in our modern era, the invitation has evolved.
Oh, because of the cameras.
Right. By constantly turning cameras on their family, by placing network security lenses in their most private spaces, they basically laid out a digital welcome mat.
The documentation is the invitation.
The act of relentless documentation is the invitation. Yes.
Man, if you're listening to this and wondering why did they just smash the cameras or throw their phones in the river or move, the text actually addresses that.
They try.
Daniel tries to destroy the hard drives, they pack bags to go to a hotel, but it's too late. The boy appears clearer and closer in every single screen.
It's already in the network.
Phones, tablets, televisions. The infection has even spread outside the house. A daycare teacher quits after she checks the facility's naptime footage.
I don't blame her.
Right. She sees Oliver sitting wide awake, smiling, and the faceless boy is right beside him, resting a hand on his shoulder.
The parasite has fully attached itself to the host at this point. It is mimicking the social bonds and physical proximity of a human child, existing in tandem with Oliver in the digital realm.
This leads to the climax of the source material. Rachel hears Oliver laughing downstairs. She runs down to the living room and finds him standing in front of a completely dark television screen, just talking to it.
Staring into the black mirror.
Yes. The boy is reflected in the black glass, but his unfinished skin has changed. It is beginning to look exactly like Oliver, complete with that impossibly wide smile from the 1998 tape.
This is the completion of the AI rendering process you mentioned earlier.
He finally got his face.
Exactly. The entity needed decades of passive observation from the Turner family to build the basic foundation of a human face. But to cross over, it needed Oliver's specific high-definition image to finalize the copy.
So it's not just haunting him.
No, it isn't just haunting the boy, it is replacing him.
Suddenly, every single screen in the house turns on simultaneously. The phones on the counter, the tablets, the laptops, the televisions, every display is looping old family footage.
It's everywhere all at once.
But the footage has changed. In every video, the boy is moving closer and closer to the camera lens.
It is a synchronized digital breach. The space it gestated in is violently spilling over into the physical world.
The screens aren't windows anymore.
Exactly. They're no longer windows we look through. They're doors bursting open.
And the aftermath of this event is incredibly bleak. According to the text, 3 days after that television incident, the entire Harper family disappears.
Completely vanished without a physical trace.
The police arrive for a wellness check. They find no bodies, no blood, no signs of a struggle. The house is completely pristine and empty.
Except for the screens.
Except for the screens. Every device inside the house is turned on, playing hundreds of hours of corrupted video footage on a continuous loop.
Such a haunting image.
And the only detail left behind by the Harpers is trapped inside that recovered footage. In every single recording, standing silently in the background, is a child. Just watching.
And changing.
Yeah, with every passing frame, his face looks just a little more human.
The entity succeeded. It used the Harper's archive to finish its creation, and in doing so, it consumed them entirely.
They became the data.
They became the data, and it became whole.
It makes you look at your own devices differently, doesn't it? I mean, think about your own camera roll right now.
Oh, absolutely.
You are likely listening to this deep dive on a smartphone, a device that is filled with hundreds, maybe thousands, of stored photos and videos of your own life.
Every milestone, every little moment.
Every birthday, every vacation, every mundane afternoon in your living room. We are constantly feeding data into the lens, archiving moments we rarely even look back on.
We just hit record without thinking.
Exactly. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. If constant documentation is exactly what gives these unseen things form, creating a bridge between the physical and the digital,
The welcome mat.
the next time you feel the urge to pull out your phone and record a perfectly normal family moment, maybe take a second to zoom in on the background. Who or what might you be slowly pulling into focus?